Oh boy. Yeah, I'm using the duck. For some reason, Rumble Studio doesn't want to work. Not happy about that. I would have used Rumble Studio. So we're waiting for the debate. Do I expect anybody to watch us? No. I'm just tired of sitting in someone's side chat and just waiting for them to go and read the text. It's no. Mm-mm. No. Anyway, so how you guys doing today? Good? Good. Let's see. I think Matt places. No. That's no, it's not that one. Which one is it? Whoa. There we go. I kind of like this one. There we go. Yes, I'm messing with the StreamYard tonight. So, if you're out there, if you're watching, comment, let me know. Otherwise, whatever. Waiting for the debate. They're going on and on and on right now. Should be like 15 minutes. But I'm not turning CNN on before that because CNN is just gonna make me angry. So we're waiting on the debate. I would have been on somebody else's podcast, but apparently they didn't want people on. So and you know that just makes me unhappy. Anyways. You've got a comment out there. If that's something you want to say, go ahead and say it, and I'll address it. Feel that more waiting. It's like everybody's covering the debate tonight, honestly. And I really don't want to turn CNN on until I have to because it's just, it's not good. So, anyways, how are y'all doing tonight? I've been busy myself lately. I haven't been able to do as much as what I'd like to. Just one of those things. How about you? Have you guys been busy lately? Good. Good. There we go. Ooh, Rogue Banshee has a as a trivia thing up right now. It's just like this TRB trivia is about to have that. It says question: what type of operating system does the AK-47 use? Answers are direct impingement, gas piston, blowback, and recoil operated. Now, I don't want to give you guys the answer, but it's the second one. The AK-47 uses a piston. Oh my God, Pickle Boy's alive. Pickle Boy is alive. So, what's going on, Pickle Boy? Yeah, I thought California swallowed you whole. There's the message to the chat, pinned to the top of the YouTube chat. Be aware, first come, first serve. I don't pay for StreamYard, so I guess I'm limited to like 6. So be aware. Yeah, the debate's supposed to start in 10 minutes, and I'm just waiting for it to kick off before I go and turn it on. I really don't want to, but we'll see what happens. Well, I'm glad you're alive, Calaveras. It's been a long while. I'm glad you're doing all right. You are missed. So we're waiting on that. What else is going on? I want to go through some more gun trivia. We got any more gun trivia? Let me go through Rogue's channel. He's got a whole bunch of trivia. All right. All right, here's a good one. Which firearm designed by Mikhail Kalashnikov became one of the most widely used assault rifles in the world? The M16, the FN FAL, the HKG3, or the AK-47? Hint, it's the last one, the AK-47. Oh, you're backstage. All right. I didn't see you there, buddy. I don't use StreamYard that often anymore. I use Rumble Studio lately, but Rumble Studio isn't working right now.
No worries. That's for I have a rare night where I actually have some time to chat with you guys.
That's amazing. It's been a while. It may just be you and me tonight. I don't know if anybody else is going to come, unfortunately.
No worries.
DJ Plain Eyes asked me about it. I don't know if I wanted to stream or not, but I really didn't want to stream, but I guess I decided to do it anyway. So
yeah, that happens.
I'm just waiting until the last minute because I really hate CNN. I hate watching CNN.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is we got a 2-minute delay with the muted mics, this kind of stuff. What's the over under on how this is gonna go?
Well, there's no audience watching, so honestly, I see them cutting Trump off on every turn and letting Biden finish his sentences to make Biden look better.
As much as he is capable of finishing sentences.
Yeah, well, he'll be sitting down, so he's not going to be able to follow up any steps.
Yeah, that's for. I was saying, to someone earlier, that's for the idea of muting mics when it's not one individual's turn, getting a set time. Okay, you have exactly this amount of time to answer a question. Blah blah blah. If applied equally, wouldn't entirely be a bad thing. But
Yeah,
we all know that this is not going to be applied equally.
If it was applied equally and fairly, and knowing CNN and knowing the skew that they have against anything conservative lately, we know they're not going to give the conservative side a fair shake. So, I don't even know why we're here tonight.
Oh, hopefully at least they can I don't know if I'd consider Trump conservative, but that's for at least hopefully he can give at least a good enough show to illustrate how one-sided CNN is. Well, even if he can't get his message across.
I know how you feel about him being conservative. He's not really conservative, but at this point, he's the best conservative candidate we're going to get, unfortunately.
Right. Well, that's for him. I had no problem calling him the Republican nominee. I was just specifying that he's not that conservative.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd rather have him than the Libertarian pick. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm not sure who that even is this year.
It's some gay dude who's for everything the Libertarian Party is not for.
Then what the hell is he doing running under the Libertarian banner?
Well, basically they've established that the Libertarian Party is just Democrat light. Is all they ended up is showing with picking that guy as their candidate. And because they did that, a couple of the candidates that were running for president, trying to get the nomination for Libertarians have said, you know what? After this, I know I said this stuff about the conservatives and Trump the other day, but fuck it, I'm voting for Trump.
Makes sense to me. I mean, if the Libertarian Party is going to violate a lot of their own beliefs, they might as well do something.
Right. It's like if all the other if all the former nominees or not nominees, the former candidates are going to vote for Trump, then I think you did something wrong.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of those libertarians aren't supposed to like Democrats or Republicans. That's kind of the whole point of being libertarian.
Right. He's not for the border, for finishing the border wall. He's not for less government. The dude is for doing all the trans stuff to children. He supports trans rights, and as far as I know, I'm pretty sure the Libertarian Party is like, I don't care about your sexual orientation, just leave me the fuck alone. That's usually been the Libertarian stance. But I guess now the Libertarian stance is, well, the Democratic Party is too socialist for me, so I'm going to be Democrat in the Libertarian Party now. It's just like...
Yeah. I mean, that's for, I don't know, it's just kind of nuts. That's for, with the border wall thing, I'm 100% on securing the border. I don't know if the wall is necessarily a effective means to do that or not. I mean, would it help slow people down? Maybe. That's for a network of infrared sensors, Sentry, hosts and a few other things might be a little more effective. And you have okay, here's our border. Here's put a secondary you know, or you can do the wall and then you have a secondary fence or whatever, and essentially here's the 100 yards of no man's land in between, and
Well,
anything breathing caught in no man's land is no longer breathing anymore.
right, and I'm all for some sort of fortification at the border, like whether it's a fence or whether it's a really high wall where you'd have to get a ladder, like a really tall ladder to go over instead of, something somebody can just walk straight through. I don't like
Right, that's for
I don't
some sort of, to slow them down.
it's a border. You're not supposed to be able to walk just straight through. You should go through some sort of station or something to get into another country or something, or some
Right.
sort of some sort of checkpoint. But we don't have any of that at the southern border.
No,
And
we don't. And I'm
and-
not saying that not to
and-
change things, but that's where I would be thinking the southern border looking more like the demilitarized zone
and
between North and South Korea.
right, and I'd be happier if we had like outposts along that so-called border fence every 100 or a couple hundred miles, just so we know, so we have somebody who could have a vantage point and see. I wouldn't necessarily want towers, but some sort of fortification to where they can the border patrol can actually do their job effectively.
Right.
Yeah,
some sort of have like a
and I'm not saying for them to shoot or hurt people, but they should do their job, arrest them, and then send them back to the federales or whoever's on the other side that manages that they broke laws. I mean, because allowing people to come into this country is only encouraging other people to break laws. So if they're breaking the law of entering the country illegally, what other laws are they going to break because they don't respect our laws in the first place?
A lot. But that's for problem. That's for arresting them, giving them court dates, sending them back, whatnot. That's for unless you arrest them, hold them in detention. Put them before a judge the next day, and then send them, and ship them somewhere where they're going to end up back on our border again in a month. I mean, that's, I guess, it's a merry-go-round cycle. That's where, you're going to keep seeing the same people again and again because they're not really facing a consequence, so they really don't care. Even if you deport them, okay, so it delays them coming into the country by a month.
Right. All right, here it is.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House.
You might have to watch it on the YouTube side.
Will debate the former
I can hear it.
as their
Okay.
party's presumptive
Is it too low, or should I raise the volume?
On my end, it's low, but I can't say for everyone else.
To our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
There, I want to be able to talk over it.
Being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN.
I'll make do with it as is.
CNN.com,
Yeah.
CNN Max,
So-
CNN Espanol. This is
Oh, did you hear him? Espanol.
Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months.
Why does he have two mugs where she only has one?
Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics.
One's full of coffee, the other one's full of cocaine.
Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and
No, that's Jake Tapper, not Hunter
CNN and I
Biden.
will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate
Okay, so meth. I don't know. It's CNN. That's God knows what those people are
Before we
doing.
introduce them, we want to
Good
share the
point,
rules
good
of the
point.
debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their position.
Yep.
Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes props or content.
Yeah, no
campaign
studio
staff are
audience.
not
Yeah, I don't
permitted
like
during
that.
the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate,
I
both
mean, it doesn't
candidates
bother
and their
me
campaigns
because they're not taking
agreed
questions
to
live
accept
anyhow, as
these
far as I can
rules.
tell.
Now,
But
please
that's
welcome
for,
the
just means you're
46th
not going to have
President
a
of the
bunch
United
of
States, Joe Biden.
shouting or people, swarming the stage for free Palestine or anything else during the event either.
Yeah, the Free Palestine movement. Oh my God. Which
Please welcome
most
the
of those
45th
people that are
President
championing
of the
for
United States,
Palestine
Donald Trump.
would be executed by the Palestinians because they're gay or trans.
I never said they were intelligent.
Oh, I never said they were either.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach in your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed.
That's not
There were no
exactly
jobs.
how it was.
Unemployment rate rose to 15%.
I would say that's not what I remember. I mean,
So
I
what
remember
happened?
the
We tried to
economy
get
growing,
everything.
being
That's
pretty
exactly
hot
what
still
we
at the end
began
of
to
his
do.
presidency. Yeah, I
There
mean,
was 15,000
it was a
unemployed.
couple months
We
later,
brought about the
when
position where
all
we
the
were able to
COVID.
have
Oh my God, we got to
manufacturing
shut
jobs.
down everything but
There's
the
more to be
big box
done.
stores.
There's more to be done.
Then the
Working
economy
class people are
tanked.
still in trouble.
Yeah.
I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of households where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing.
Yeah, the price of
all kinds
gas.
of things.
Another
That's why
thing
I'm
you
working so
screwed
hard
up.
to make sure I deal with those problems.
Yeah, that's your
And we're gonna
Keystone
make sure that we
Pipeline.
do this for housing.
Goodness
We're gonna make
knows
sure
what
that
else. What other
each
things.
city we do
Keystone
need.
Pipeline,
Make sure we have
fracking,
grants
offshore
for
drilling. He stopped all of that.
Well, that's for and a lot of canceled a lot of
In
oil
addition to
leases
that,
that were
in a
already
situation
active.
where if you take a look at all
Yeah.
that was done in his administration, he didn't do much.
We
at
went
all.
from a
By
net
the time he
oil
left, things
exporter to
were
a
chaos.
net oil
It was
importer.
literally chaos.
Yeah, we
And
can't
so
do
we
that.
put
We
things back
can't
together. We
sustain
created,
that.
I
We
said,
have to
jobs and
produce
make sure
our
we're
own
in a
oil.
situation where we brought down the price of prescription
Yeah,
drugs.
that's right. We do not need to be at the
Mercy of somebody else.
the mercy of OPEC.
As opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary.
Even better than
so we
after
wouldn't
World
end
War
up in the
II
Great Depression
or
and
World War
lots of
I. I
we had
don't
in
know about that.
1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy. A lot
I
of
do
credit
know
for the
that,
military and no wars.
honestly,
and so many other
he didn't
things.
do that
Everything
bad
we
during
thought was
COVID.
good.
Honestly,
But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should
He didn't have
is
to deal with a
getting
whole
rid
lot of it.
COVID
That's right. It
budget.
was,
We
it was
created
just getting
globally,
ramped
it
up
was a
as he was on his
disaster
way
for our
out.
country, but
Right.
But
other
that's
than
for, I'm talking
we
economy
have
wise, that's for
a
the best
a
economy
country
we've ever seen.
market
That's
actually
for compared to the roaring
for the
20s and then the
what do you
boom
think
of the
that we did?
50s. I don't know about,
The only
how
job
it
well,
stacks up in
rem-
comparison to those.
illegal
remember the
immigrants and
50s. The
bounce back
50s
jobs
only
bounce
boomed
back from the
because
COVID. He has not done a good job. He's
because
done a
of
poor
World
job,
War
and
II.
inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Right, and that's the same reason
Thank
why
you.
the
President
20s
Biden?
boomed. But
Right.
that's
Well,
for,
compared
I'm
to
saying,
around the world,
if you
he's only
compare
the worst
those
of it.
booms to
He's
the
got more
one that we
divorces
had
than
under
the
Trump,
Well,
I don't
world.
know how they stack. I'm asking how do they stack
the fact
up?
of the matter
The
is
20s had the
that
Great Depression in
he
it too.
found
So
himself in a
let's not split
situation
hairs there.
his
Well,
economy
that's right. Yeah, they
was
came to a
ready to
crashing
roll.
end.
He had the
But
largest
Yeah.
tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert
Unless
Hoover
your name
who
is
has lost more
Biden.
jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant in the military, when he was
Oh,
president, we were
don't
still
mention the
killing people in
military.
Afghanistan.
You're responsible for
He
the
didn't do anything
worst
about that.
pullout of a
When he was
country
president, we were still finding ourselves in a
since
position where
Oh,
you
I
had
don't
a
know.
nation that
Vietnam.
I don't know.
safe country.
Yeah, since
Truth
Vietnam.
is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any this decade that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can. You
Am I
want
allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to
Don't most countries have tariffs on shit coming into their country?
Yes.
We're one of the few that doesn't.
He made a statement. The only
Yeah.
thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down.
The
and
reason
then
why the
bounced
whole
back, and he's
economy
taking credit for
tanked was
bounced back
because
jobs. You can't
day
do that.
one,
He also said he inherited
Sniffy
9%
Touchy over there
inflation. No, he
got rid of
inherited almost
everything
no
Trump
inflation,
did.
and it stayed
He
that way for
undid all the
15 months.
executive orders.
And then it
He
blew
ruined
up
the
under his
economy by
leadership
doing
because
so.
they spent money like a bunch of people. That
Yes,
don't know what they
that's
were doing, and
on
they don't know what they
that
were doing. It
though.
was the
That's
worst, probably
it.
the
Should
worst
the
administration
executive
in history.
orders
There's never been.
were
And as far as
borderline whether
comparison
they're
Afghanistan
legal
is
or not.
concerned,
I mean,
I
that's
was
for
getting out of
if you look at
Afghanistan.
what
We were
executive orders
getting
are
out
supposed
with
to be for. That
dignity,
should have
with
been a
strength,
congressional
with
act, not a
power.
presidential act.
It was the most
Right.
embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. While so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt.
I mean,
So
Biden
former
keeps
President
giving
Trump, many of the
money to
tax
countries
cuts
that,
you
you
signed
know,
into law are set to
honestly,
expire next year. You want to
I
extend
mean,
them
I
and
want
go
to
even
support
further, you
Ukraine,
say.
but I don't
With
want to
the
keep
US
giving them
facing
billions
trillion-dollar
of dollars they're
deficits
never going to
and
be able to
record
pay
debt,
back.
why should top earners and corporations pay even less in
That's
taxes?
for when it comes to Ukraine. That's for trying to help prevent a new Soviet bloc. I think is important. But that's for after the whole thing with Russia's done. Like, we need guarantees that they're going to basically sell everything to us for say 10% over cost, so that way we essentially count that whatever difference between that and market value as profit until eventually until they have basically paid back their loans by doing so.
Right.
So
So
at least so that way it's a.
So you're saying sell all the equipment back activists that they don't need, and count it as a lend lease.
Well, that's for equipment, but also they're Ukraine's the breadbasket of Europe. They also produce other ores and this kind of stuff. Let's just say it costs them $110 per ton of ore. They would normally sell it for $250, while we get it for $110. So
Right.
they still make a little. They make back their what they lost, what it costs, plus a small profit. But we are getting it for a significant discount, and we keep that up on all goods until whatever their debt is paid off.
That would be
the vaccine.
yeah.
And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore.
It's true. They don't
We're like
respect
a third
Biden at
world
all.
nation between weaponization,
I don't respect
his
him either.
election, trying to go after.
Why would they? That's where he is. Got to be one of the weakest presidents we've had in modern times, and that's why would any country respect him?
I don't know. Carter was pretty bad.
From prisons, jails, and mental institutions.
Well, that's why I said one of. I don't, I haven't been alive for that many presidents, so
I
I
wasn't
can't say for
alive for
sure.
Carter either, but I was told that Carter was pretty bad. But I think Biden might have actually surpassed Carter already.
Well, that's for Biden, Carter, Carter. Not who, maybe. And there's a few of them that have been bad over the years, but that's why I put Biden near the top of the list. But I can't say for sure who's the top.
But all I can say is my relatives were mediocre presidents at best.
We'd be able to wipe out his.
One of them was a one term, and one of them only served like 30 days.
Child care, elder care, making sure that.
Well, that's what we get for letting
letting my
Yeah,
relative
They were able
be
to make
president. I
every
know.
single solitary
yeah, that's
person.
true. West
And
Virginia
they also
produced
point
in
out
what,
able to
or the
do that.
Appalachians
And
were,
with
when
COVID,
they come down for the, to the White House for the first time, they see electricity may not be the best people for president.
look, if Biden beat Medicare,
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in.
This is
They're
getting
putting
good.
them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
it's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea.
Supporting of abortion, interesting for someone who claims to be very a very strong Catholic.
Where in 6 weeks,
Yeah.
you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, have him decide on what your circumstances are.
I'll be honest.
The idea that states are able to
The Democrat Party lost it when they decided they would rather have fight again for another 4 years instead of somebody charismatic like a Kennedy.
He went to the funeral. The idea that
Yes, but rarely, very rarely in history has a party chosen a new runner as opposed to the incumbent.
Yeah.
by their in-laws.
What
by
I'm
their-
saying right now is
by their
pissing
spouses,
Kennedy off
brothers and
by
sisters,
choosing
by-
to field
it's
Biden
just
again.
ridiculous. And they can do
That's
nothing
only
about it.
going to
And they
bite
try to
in the
rescue them
ass.
across state lines.
Thank you.
Because Kennedy was more electable than
Many
Biden is.
young women murdered by the
No
same
argument
people
there.
who
But
cross
that's
our border.
again, like I said,
Our border is the most dangerous
very
place
rarely
anywhere
does a
in the
party
world,
not
the most
choose their
dangerous
incumbent.
place anywhere in the world.
Right.
And he opened it up.
No,
to
I
these
get it.
killers
I get
coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women, and it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now
Lost
back
the
in
arm.
the states. And states
If you want to
allowing
jump in, the link's
in
posted.
many cases,
it's
it's
pinned to the
frankly a very liberal
chat.
decision. In many cases, it's the opposite.
I just
They're
don't have a
voting,
lot
and
of
it's
room,
bringing it
so
back
just
to
be
the will
aware.
of the people, which is what
got about,
everybody wanted.
What, 4
including
more
the
slots?
founders, if they
Somebody
knew
wants to
about
jump
this
in?
issue, which frankly
Comment?
they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states.
I got to be honest. I'm impressed with the restraint Trump is holding is showing right now.
Well, I give them both credit. They're both being civil right now, and CNN's keeping their nose pretty clean too. I mean, I'm quite surprised.
Which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that.
No,
That's
Roe v.
not the
Wade provides for that.
Only if a woman's life is in danger.
It's
she's
true.
gonna die.
He's
That's
not
the
lying
only
on that.
circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion. Period. Period. Period.
Under Roe v.
You
Wade,
keep saying it.
Late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years.
51 years is all your answer.
Very conservative members on the
No,
Supreme
for
Court.
51 years, it was the law of the land. Kind of like, Obama was like, Obamacare has been the law for X number of years. Stop trying to change it. All right, a Second Amendment's been, for hundreds of years. Leave it alone.
Right.
The board at 6 weeks, or 7 or 8 or 10
We
weeks.
never had as much
Very,
problem
very
with the
conservative.
ATF until that MFer got in charge.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden.
I think he was just the first one to realize he could weaponize it.
Border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns.
I'll be honest. If Trump does win the election, if it was me, I would fire everyone at the ATF. Every single one of them.
Made sure that we are in a situation where
remove them.
Had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police.
Hey, lawfully.
I can't say what I would do.
By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me.
Sorry about that. I can't say what I would do as president because there's too much data that I don't have for making decisions. So I can't say.
Making sure
right, and lawfully armed. We're just commenting some of the things that they're going over tonight and they're talking about because because of how this is. CNN's gonna pop me anyways, so I'm probably just gonna have to take this down after. But in the meantime, we're commenting on what they're saying.
The total initiative relative to.
Hold on. Question: why should voters trust Biden to solve the immigration crisis?
He's had 4 years. What's he gonna do in another 4 years?
Well, and that's
get his butt wiped.
it was under his orders that they basically just that they stopped detaining
Decided to
people.
open up our border,
I mean,
open up our country
as
to
my understanding, it was
people
under
who are
it was an executive
prisoners,
order coming down from
people
him
that
saying
are in mental
more or
institutions,
less
and
ticket him and let him
terrorists,
go. Don't
all
don't
those
detain them.
terrorists coming
Wait,
into our
So I mean,
country,
he
right?
has
All
contributed
terrorists,
to the
all terrorists, not
freaking
just in South
problem.
America, all over the world,
unlike
okay?
unlike
From the
unlike
Middle East,
me now,
everywhere, all
you
over the
live in
world,
a
they're
border
pouring in.
state. I'm from a border
This
state
guy
originally,
just left
but I
it
don't
open,
live in a
and he
border
didn't
state
need
anymore.
legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said close
You live
borders.
in a
The
border
safest
They're
state.
effectively
border in
all border
history.
states.
In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had
The way they've been bused, flown,
great. And by the way, who endorsed
whisked
the
across the
president?
country at night,
Say that.
every state is functionally a border state now.
Brandon, just speak to him.
Yes, and it was kind of
Yeah, we have the safest
honestly, it was
border.
kind of funny.
Now
My
we have
governor's
one.
reaction
It's never been
when
happening.
a
People are dying.
charter flight came in, the
People are
door
dying.
opened, they pushed a bunch of people out onto the tarmac and then took off before anyone knew what was going on. And they came in from, I can't remember what state the plane was flying in from, but by the time that they realized what was going on, the plane was outside of California airspace. My governor was losing his mind.
That's the only
Your
terrorist.
governor has
I'm
already
not saying
lost
that's
his
the only
mind.
terrorist ever got through with the idea.
Yeah, he's actually there in Georgia right now. He's not even in the state anymore. He has spent probably close to a third of his governorship
Staying on the topic
outside of
immigration,
California.
You've said that you're going to carry out quote,
He
the
he
largest
thinks he's
domestic
gonna be able to
deportation
run for
operation in
president.
American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport?
Yeah, that's right. He's already kind of been doing a soft campaign already.
Whose spouses are citizens,
And I'll be honest,
including those who have lived here for decades.
every
And if so,
conservative state
how
would
you
say
do it?
no to
Just
Gavin
1
Newsom.
second, he said we killed 3 people.
Half the
Who did we
Democrats
kill?
in the country say
Albo
no to
and
Newsom
Salamani.
because of how
mean,
badly
Biggest
he's
terrorist
botched
anywhere
things
in the
and how
world. And for
when
years, we
asked
talked
questions
about
by the
the
media that he doesn't
border
like,
on
he
everything.
gets nasty
He's
and
the one
starts
who put
basically
people
threatening the
hundreds
you
of
realize
you
how he got
and also
governorship of
killing our
California,
citizens
right?
when they come in. We are
uh
living right now
He's
in a
Pelosi's
rat nest.
nephew.
yeah, as I say,
Killing our people.
Mhm.
yeah, that's when he was governor of San
Every
Francisco
state in the
first,
union, because we
and
don't
then
have
You mean
became
mayor of San
governor.
Francisco?
Mayor, yes, then mayor of San Francisco, then became governor of California.
insane and very
I
stupid.
think the way that he handled
Idiots
COVID,
that are killing our citizens.
I'm in the state capitol. I'm in the Sacramento area. That's for every Democrat I know in the Sacramento
And you're reading it.
hate Newsom with a passion.
Young girls over the last
And
few days.
there's a couple of them that would they would vote for.
The funeral.
Heck, I think one of them actually said that they would vote for Trump before they would vote for Newsom.
Here's the funny thing: my grandmother was from Sacramento,
An uncivilized country now.
and she was a Republican.
He just doesn't know.
Oh, there's some once you get outside the city, but that's inside the city itself. It's pretty blue.
We have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less.
Yeah, the pullout of Afghanistan ruined the armed forces.
Because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border.
Yeah, pulling out of Afghanistan probably should have been a year-long process, not a month and a half.
Veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act.
No, they're not.
1 million of them now have insurance.
I can't believe he's saying this shit with a straight face.
Because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France.
Wait. Hunter was in Afghanistan?
I spoke all about those heroes that died.
I don't remember Hunter being in Afghanistan.
He's talking about Bo.
He was standing as 4-star general.
I was going to say that's true. If Hunter was in Afghanistan, it was probably for all the opium poppies.
Yeah, he was probably farming those poppy seeds.
President Trump?
Those poppy farms.
First of all, that was a made-up quote.
No, he wouldn't have been farming them. That's true. He comes from a silver spoon family. He'd have been over there,
You put it in
Okay, you know, load that pallet of 1,000 kilos into that truck.
Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Four-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president
No,
has
you
in
should
American
apologize to the American people, you jackass.
And they now are in their family. The only
You know, we have 40 plus 4-star generals now
they come
with a
home,
military of just over 2 million.
go to war.
In World War II,
That's what
we
the
had
veterans are doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
How many do we have?
one 4-star general. We've got 40 plus now.
With Russia's war against Ukraine, which
Yeah.
is now in its third year.
There were 4 4-star generals in World, 4 or 5 4-star generals in World War II.
In World War
We had
II, we had,
like
in World War II, we had a much larger military.
that's the point I'm making.
Ukraine
It's all these special interest offices and stuff that they've created.
Well, it's the problem is it's because of the the technology has changed.
Can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander in chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them.
And it's amazing how the generals now, the ones that
Russia and Ukraine,
basically have never they've served they've been armchair generals their entire lives. They've never really done much. Have
The only thing they've done is boot camp. That's the only thing they ever got through.
Right, they have an entire chest full of medals. But you look at our World War II and our Korean War generals, and they would have 3, maybe 4 medals on their chest, and that'd be it.
Most embarrassing.
Talking about the participation trophy.
Watch
meme.
that, and he saw the incompetence that he
Called the
should
chest candy.
Yeah, I was a general during such and such campaign, even though I never left the U.S.
Those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money.
Yeah,
for
that's
Hamas.
true. Biden did allow
No
like
money for
30
terror.
million
That's
to
why
go
we had no
to go to
terror at
Iran,
all during
or
my
30 billion was
administration.
it?
This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact
Yeah, you mean the malarkey you spew?
Let's take the last point first. Iran.
Well, that's true. Under Trump, there was a certain, it was kind of a return to the speak softly and carry a big stick mentality.
Oh, hold on. I'm gonna pull out a 2020 quote. Get your facts straight, Jack.
That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when they attacked.
Right. So that's where we're talking about the military, and that's people attacking, who attacked who and whatnot. Seems like under, right now, everyone looks at us and they don't see a threat. Under the Trump administration, whether it was true or not, because of his ego and how easy his ego could be bruised, there was a lot of people that looked at him as a carry a big stick mentality, and hey, if he wakes up and his hair's parted the wrong way, he might nuke us, and people tiptoed around it.
He was part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish.
Lawfully arms back. Welcome back, buddy.
Do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done, and they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
if I
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine.
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people.
Of which, by the way, there's still like 200 something odd Americans trapped in Palestine still. Being held hostage by Hamas. Just FYI.
And created a
In
humanitarian
case you didn't know.
crisis in Gaza. President Biden.
Yes, but I also have to, on some of that, like when Americans get captured because they go places like Palestine, like the border of North and South Korea, trying to sneak into Ukraine during the war, and some of these other things, there's a certain amount of personal responsibility they need to take upon themselves for that, and we as a country, shouldn't have to be giving away the farm to get them back.
No, true.
The plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt.
Sure you are.
One Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone.
When dealing, 2,000-pound bomb, when you're dealing with the people that knowingly voted in a terrorist organization, allows them to hide in schools, hospitals, and mosques in order to try to protect them from getting bombed. Means, at the very least, the public is complicit, and that's where they say, from river to the sea, you know what, you're right. Let's make it rain steel from the river to the sea for 30 days and 30 nights, and when there's a parking lot, the size of Palestine, then we'll try it done.
Have spent $100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliance.
Yeah, I don't think we should pull out of NATO.
There may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe?
No, but we also need the rest of NATO to step up and be equal contributors.
In the NATO.
Also, find a backbone.
Attack on one is attack on all.
Well, we are kind of their backbone.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, someone needs to walk up to Jens Stoltenberg and slap him like Will Smith.
What happens then? He has no idea what Trump's talking about.
Got it.
Okay, because he's acting like
including Japan,
a coward.
and South
Honestly,
Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money.
Didn't they already try to do that? That's for, Gaza, West Bank, they were more or less free to do their own thing until they decided to harbor terrorists.
As the United States, and they were no cars, no, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. That what happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, He encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill. Number one.
No, he didn't.
I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours watching.
Without having personally heard what he said, I can't say for 100%, but he's arrogant, but he's not stupid. I wouldn't have a hard time believing that he explicitly told people to go attack the building.
In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say,
yeah, what?
That,
well, some people didn't do anything wrong other than standing in front of the building, and they got arrested too with the people that went inside. Okay, so honestly, are all those people guilty? No.
For doing what is being
so commuting some of those people's sentences, I can see, because half of them shouldn't even be there.
Being held accountable.
The actual people that stormed the building were inside should be the people arrested and,
thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
held accountable.
What they've done to some
Yeah, the
people,
Buffalo headdress guy, the guy that was, photographed with his feet up on Pelosi's desk, stuff like that.
The guy who took Pelosi's laptop.
Yeah, that's for those ones 100%, breached the building, ransacked the place, stole stuff, whatnot. Yeah, those are 100% people that, broke the law.
When you look at all
There's other people, heck, that's true. We have some of our mutual friends were there when they saw the wave start going through the barriers. They turned and started booking to get away from it. I mean, people that stayed outside and just chanted shouldn't have been prosecuted because they didn't do anything wrong.
Well, a friend of mine was there and he got gassed.
And Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed.
They used
and
tear
deleted
gas
all
on
of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they
That
he was
doesn't
stand,
really
and he
suffice.
and he was standing behind the what do you call it, the
President Trump, President Biden, I want to give you
Barriers.
the barriers. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. What's his name? Rob D. New York Outcast.
Okay, I forgot that Outcast was there. That's for what I think Roll Call was there.
Yeah.
And a few others.
Outcast was there with the missus, and I was able to catch him live and do a live thing about that.
Come on.
He was our corresponding reporter.
Okay. Yes, I wasn't trying to say he wasn't. I just didn't remember him being there.
The idea he's refusing, you denounce these guys? You denounce the people we're talking about now? You denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You talked about members of the select.
From what I was hearing, that's the stuff that 34 crimes,
34 counts of bullshit. Yeah,
34 pages essentially of one document. So they made it 34 counts, and that's for the crime that he was being charged with was past the
But when he talks about
what the heck's it called the statute of limitations. So how they were able to spin it from the misdemeanor it would have been originally to make it a felony, I don't understand.
Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was.
All right, nice trick. I got to bail.
I did nothing
all right, take it easy.
President Trump, President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
Oh, see, they're letting him respond.
That I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous.
Oh, you did something wrong. You did something wrong.
Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president.
Says you.
Spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam, and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran.
Not at all.
I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president.
Oh my
Didn't deserve to
God.
be president at all. And
How much longer we gotta have
that
to
he's
listen to
talking
this?
about all this being fabricated. We
Please,
saw with our own eyes.
please
We saw
end
what
it.
happened
End
in
it now.
January 6th. We saw
End
the
it
people
now.
breaking through windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute that. So yeah, I've been listening to that. Oh my god, Biden's lost it. Biden has lost it. But that being said, I'm gonna go use the restroom right now, and I will be back in a second. I'll unmute it so you can let's do it. I'm back. Let's watch the rest of this train wreck. Hopefully, it won't take too much longer.
Welcome back to the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there are more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. In addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation,
I would hazard guess they gave him the questions beforehand, like a day before, so he could he could
Now,
rehearse them.
we got to make sure.
I don't believe
child
Biden
care
is
costs.
doing this
Gotta
off
make
the top
sure,
of his head.
because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family.
But you said inflation doesn't exist.
Get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home, so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and those Black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking Black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back, 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time.
No.
No jobs.
Don't lie.
He provided thousands of millions of jobs for
He didn't decimate the economy.
Including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the Black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically Black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are Blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the Black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's
And
also done a
yes, we're
horrible
going to
job
work on it.
for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the
We'll
climate
work on it.
crisis?
Yes.
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air. And we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever. And we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most.
The idea that anything you say is
extensive
true.
Climate change legislation in history. In history, we find ourselves. And by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities.
No, you didn't.
Because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. He doesn't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. He must undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to? The United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. The idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing will do it if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where it talks
Oh
about
my God.
education.
This
Black
is
communities.
ridiculous.
I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world.
No, we're
The
not.
United States.
Not
of
with you in
America.
charge.
There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden.
Facilities.
President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And
No.
if I'm given another
Guys,
years, I will be the best.
Guys,
I think I'll be
answer the
best.
question.
Nobody's ever
Both of you.
created an
Both
economy
deflected.
like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise.
He does want to
everybody's
raise taxes.
by
All
4
Democrats
times.
do
He
is
wants to
raise
cut
taxes
tax
on
cuts to expire.
everyone,
So
but
everybody,
themselves.
including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are very important.
You mean
Number
like they
two,
are right now
he's in a
with your
situation
leadership?
where he
Yeah,
talks
right.
about how he has not raised.
Don't lie.
He somehow helped the middle class. Middle class have been devastated by you.
No, they've been devastated by you, Joe.
$5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that
Oh my God,
made, more than 100,000
not sure I can listen to the rest of this
every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways, but the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him, because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use
No, they
the
didn't.
machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more
end this. So, watch everybody's screen. I'm gonna kiss and wait for my internet to come back up. It's funny because normally my internet is fast. Unfortunately, storms tonight. I guess it's not as great. So that's that. I can't watch the rest of it, so I will see you all later.